Chapter 3 is here, and we've washed up onto the shore of the Seven's very own island. This chapter has introduced us to loads of new information regarding the Seven and their inner relationships, and some hints that will finally lead us to the Paradigm. Type in code TLL_TheReaper in the item shop if you'd like to support me. Now, here's where the fun begins. During the Chapter 2 finale, chaos and destruction of Apollo was put on pause to show Agent Jonesy captured by the IO. It appears Sloan was about to take him out when the Foundation makes his grand return. After diverting all his power to his gauntlets and absolutely whooping some IO guards, he breaks the control panel and frees Jones. He later unmasks to reveal himself as The Rock. Let's be honest, we all saw this coming and absolutely loved it. The Foundation clears the complex and leads Jones to the control panel in the bridge. His plan? To flip the island. The Foundation tells Jones to disable the gyro system, and one red button click later, the complex is rotating. And then...
it's done. Initiate phase 2.
The scientist and the visitor come flying in to carry out phase 2, which leads both of them and us, the loopers, safely into the rotating complex. After reaching the epicenter of the island, the bridge, we can assume this is where the rest of the plan was going to carry out. More on this soon. But it was all cut short when a caretaker smashes the roof in and sends us to the surface to watch Reality Zero flip. After drifting to the flip side shore, we get an interesting cutscene of the Foundation telling us his goals. Until we set the 0 point free, we'll be facing threats like the last reality, and worse. He needs our help to destroy the imagined order and stop the exploitation of the 0 point, to finally leave the loop for good.
We can all go for it.
Along with the Seven arriving mid-live event, finally hearing what the scientist sounds like, and hearing the Foundation debrief us on this chapter's mission, their own location has been revealed. Like I said earlier in this video, we washed up on the new island, but it is the Seven's turf now. We have the launch pad where all 7 of their rockets are in the ground somewhere. We can assume there's a secret facility down here that we might see later on. We also have a big Foundation statue that marks the territory called the Sanctuary where the 7 live. There's a main building, the scientist is there, and the visitor is actually on the launch pad. And we also have this big, mysterious underground area that is underneath the Foundation statue, as we can see a door on the bottom of his base. Later this season, this will open and we might be able to get a glimpse at their huge facility underground, especially because there's 7 rockets buried underground in the launch pad, so they must go somewhere. And we already have 2 audio logs left on the island by the scientist that reveal some very interesting information. Here's a quick recap of the first log. The scientist reaches out to the Paradigm, mentioning that he guesses she knew what happened. The 7 had a much more complicated plan than simply flipping the island, one that involved reducing the imagined order to a smoking crater. Due to being left exposed and overextended, the plan wasn't finished. He mentions his history being complicated with her, but that he never lost faith in her. Well, at least only for a few weeks. The most interesting part, however, is this.
It's hard to believe that someone who went through what you went through would hold the line, but I know you did.
And the last thing he mentions is that the 7 really don't deserve her help right now, but they really need it. Right off the bat, that is a lot to unpack. A while back, I uploaded a video discussing how Paradigm and Singularity must be the same. I'll leave a link to this in the description and you can click the card on the top right to watch it. It's definitely worth watching now that we have all this new information about these 2 possible connections. This log adds a whole lot more to the theory of them being the same. The scientist mentions that she went through something. What if this was her isolation in the vault? We know Singularity had her helmet sitting on a desk in front of the 0 point locked away in the vault for the entirety of Chapter 1, completely alone. If they are the same, this must have been a hard thing to go through. On to the next log. Audio log 2 starts off with the scientist broadcast onto the 7 secure channel. Here, this part's hard to sum up without saying it word for word, so take a listen.
This is the scientist broadcasting on the 7 secure channel. At 0400 hours, we received a ping from the Paradigm. Still need to confirm authenticity and verify that we're not being hacked, spoofed, tricked, or otherwise deceived. But I believe it's the real deal. I know that among our ranks, there are still some mixed feelings about the paradigm. But for the sake of survival, we need to think of her as an ally. We are the Seven. We have a duty to rise above grudges and petty disagreements for the greater good. And yes, Foundation, I'm looking at you. I can see your face through that mask. Regardless of the past, there is no future without her.
A few things to note here. After the scientist reached out to Paradigm in the last log, it seems she responded back with a ping. The scientist lets everyone know this on their very own private communication channel. A major thing he says in this log is that everyone has mixed feelings about the Paradigm, and that they need her for the sake of survival. Whatever happened isn't worth fighting over, and they have a mission to take down the IO and it needs to be completed. Specifically, the Foundation seems to have a grudge against the Paradigm. This makes sense, as he's the leader of the Seven, so whatever she did affected his entire team. There isn't a future without her. This log is already my favorite by far. It establishes some very interesting relationships behind the scenes of the Seven, along with telling us that the Paradigm isn't on good terms with everyone, but it isn't worth fighting over for the sake of survival and the ultimate plan of putting an end to the IO. As far as we know, this grudge everyone is holding against her must be her ties to the Imagined Order. The Paradigm's description is her allegiance is unknown, and we know Singularity must have been tied to the IO in some capacity since she was isolated in the vault, which is the hardship she endured as mentioned by the scientist in Log 1, and was discovered by the IO in Chapter 1. As time goes on and we receive more logs that adds to this big mystery, I'll be sure to cover it. Meanwhile, this season's storyline quests are focused on the scientists directing us around the island for missions to help the Seven. The most important one so far was destroying signal jammers the IO set up to stop the scientists from launching a rocket into space to retrieve some valuable wartime essentials they accidentally left there. For the first week of the season, that was a lot, and there's plenty more to come. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the rest of my videos in the future, and make sure to drop a comment below about who your favorite member of the Seven is so far. Mine's definitely the scientist. Till next time, keep it reaping.